So children, so we have discussed till far regarding what exactly is the reflection of light, types of surfaces, luminous types of bodies like luminous and non-luminous bodies, regular reflection and irregular reflection. Now let us move to the next, try to understand the next topic regarding the same light, that is laws related to this reflection. So next topic is all about your laws of reflection. Here we go. Well, you need to remember two main laws related to the reflection. The first law states that the angle of incidence is equals to the angle of reflection. The angle of incidence I is equal to the angle of reflection. This is the first important law related to the laws of reflection. And one more thing is that this incident ray, the incident ray the reflected ray and the normal drawn to the surface. All lie in the same plane. So these are the two main laws related to laws of reflection which plays a major role to understand the concept of light in a proper way. So what the first one is, the angle of incidence I is always equal to the angle of reflection R. Okay. So angle of incidence I, angle I, and angle of reflection angle R generally we indicate. That means in detail, let me discuss it in detail. And I have already introduced you how an incident ray looks like, how the normal and the reflected ray. So these three always lie in the same plane. Let us try to understand the same in a proper, clear way. So first of all, let us try to identify one after the other regarding the surfaces. Surface. Okay. So first of all, let us come back to the first one. So what is this, children? Let me name this as M1. This itself is a surface. M1, let us consider it as a smooth, plain, smooth surface, that is a plane mirror. Okay. So this is called as your surface. Okay. Whenever the light falls on this smooth surface, it is reflected back. Hence, this portion is called as your smooth surface or reflecting surface. This portion is called as your reflecting surface. Whereas the bottom one, it is coated with silver line, that is called as silver lining, okay, grounded. Only one portion of the glass or the mirror is being kept plain and highly polished, in which for the mirror we are able to see our faces, look into our faces. But the back portion of the mirror, if you see that, it is slightly silver coated. If you turn the back side of a mirror, it is coated, silver lining is coated. It is coated with some silver paint or some mercury or something like that, okay. Wherever the other side of the mirror which is been polished, which is coated or simply called as a silver lining, then that will not reflect the light falling on them, okay. Only on which simply it is kept as it is, that plain mirror in which we are able to look into our faces, that is called as a reflecting surface. And the back portion of the mirror which is coated with silver, that will not reflect any light falling on them. So that surface is the secondary one. So this is called as silvered surface or silvered lining surface. So two different surfaces, one is front, the other is back. Front is called as reflecting surface, which always reflects the light falling on them. The back portion of that is coated with some silver, and that is called as your silvered surface, okay. Well, suppose if some light falls on the mirror, some light ray is incident on the mirror at some particular angle. This is called as your incident light. This is called as your incident light. And if you draw a perpendicular to this mirror, then the perpendicular drawn to this mirror is always called as your normal drawn to the surface. This is normal perpendicular and this is the light ray. This is only normal. This is no way we are going to bother about with simply normal, okay. This is a perpendicular and this is your incident. After this light ray, after falling on the surface, is again reflected back into the same medium, and this light ray is called as your reflected light ray. This is incident ray and here is a reflected ray. Let us try to draw all the three diagrams at one place. So here we'll go. So what is this, children? This is a normal drawn to the surface. A normal drawn to the surface. Here is your incident ray and this be your reflected ray. This is your incident ray and this is reflected ray. Incident ray, reflected ray and normal drawn to the surface. Just now I told you that according to the first law of reflection, the angle of incidence is always equals to the angle of reflection. What is angle of incidence? The angle made by the incident line, this is the incident ray, the angle made by the incident ray with the normal, that means this angle itself is called as angle of incidence. This light ray is called as incident ray and this ray is called as a reflected ray, but this angle itself is called as your angle of incidence. The angle between the incident ray and normal drawn to that is called as incident ray. Similarly, the angle drawn between the reflected light ray and normal is called as your angle of reflection. Okay, this is called as your angle of reflection. Also observe that, children, there is one more angle you can observe here. This angle is the angle between the plane mirror. This is mirror, I already told it as MM1. The angle made by the incident ray with the surface of the mirror. This is called as your glazing angle. What is this called as? Glazing angle. Here also, the angle made by the reflected ray with the surface of the mirror is called as glazing angle. The angle made by the incident light ray or reflected light ray with the surface of the mirror is called as a glazing angle. The angle made by the incident ray with normal drawn to that is called as angle of incidence, and the angle made by the reflected ray with the normal drawn to that is called as your angle of reflection. And always remember that according to first law, angle I must be equals to angle R. Suppose that, children, if a light ray is incident along the normal, straight it is coming. That means what is the angle? If here it is something like 90 degrees, coming here 45, 30, 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here it is 0. If a light ray is incident on the surface of the mirror straight all along the normal, in that case angle of incidence will be 0 degrees. Yes or no? If it is falling, going like this means it is 90 degrees. Like this means 45. Here it is 60, 45, 30, something like 10, 5, and so on and so forth. So if the light ray is sent directly along the normal, the angle of incidence is 0. But we just observe that angle of incidence is always equals to angle of reflection according to the laws of reflection. Hence, this implies that angle R must also be equals to 0 degrees. That means if the incident ray is going like this, reflected light ray also takes the same path. The light pink color is incident ray, whereas the dark pink color indicates the reflected light ray. That is, angle I is equals to 0, angle R must also be equals to 0. If angle I equals to 90 degrees, angle R is also equals to 90 degrees. This thing you have to remember. Okay, children. So, I hope you understood all the concepts related to the light ray, incident light ray, reflected light ray, plane mirrors or glazing angle, incident angle, reflected angle, everything. Okay. Well, and one more last term I have to explain, which also include the second law. The incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal drawn to the surface all lie in the same plane. This blackboard is a plane. Okay. So, you know the 2 dimensions, 3 dimension, everywhere you are clear with all these things. You can imagine this blackboard whole itself as a plane. And if we suppose one more horizontal plane like floor or ceiling is being taken, that is another plane. This is one plane, perpendicular to that it is taken as another plane. So, if you consider this incident ray lies in the same plane of the blackboard. Normal also lies in the same plane, whereas the reflected light ray also belong to the same plane, the plane of this board. Okay. So, what we suppose is the incident ray, the normal drawn to the surface, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. They are not in this surface or the other surface, all lie in the same plane. This is all about your second layer. Okay. So this portion is called as, this part of the plane is called as your plane of incidence, and this portion is called as your plane of reflection. The whole region, this left side region towards the normal is called as plane of incidence, and the right side of the normal, this complete plane is called as your plane of reflection. And last but one more thing I need to consider, children, that is all about angle of deviation. So what is meant by angle of deviation? If you suppose that this light ray, after falling on the surface, it is reflected back onto the same medium, then what should be the latter case? Actually, the thing is that the light ray, instead of plane, there is some transparent medium like glass, water is there. The light ray actually has to pass straight ahead like this. So no, the light ray, instead of going straight like this, because of this surface, the separating medium, instead of going straight ahead, the light ray is taking this path. Path 1, path 2 and path 3. Instead of going from 1 to 2, the light ray is going from 1 to 3. Okay, that means this portion, instead of going in this direction, it is actually going in this particular direction. That means this much angle is deviated. So like this, instead of going, it is deviated like this and going in this particular direction. Okay. So the angle through which the light ray, the incident light ray is deviated, the angle through which the incident light ray is deviated, whatever be the angle, that is called as your angle of deviation, generally indicated with the letter D or delta. So for the time being, let us indicate it with D only. Okay, this portion is called as your angle of deviation. Okay, instead of going straight ahead, it deviated its path and going in the reflected region. Clear?